Hello and welcome. My name is Cliona Foley and this is Off the Bench, a podcast about women's sport which we hope will educate and entertain sports fans of all ages and genders. You can find all our previous episodes on iTunes, or if you go into offtheball.com, go into their podcast link, you'll find Off the Bench in there and all our previous episodes are in there. We have a Twitter handle, it's called @offthebenchOTB, capital OTB. So if you have any suggestions or feedback, we'd be happy to get them there too. Our last episode of Off the Bench was with three of the members of the Irish women's hockey team who made history last weekend by becoming the first Irish team, a women's team of any sport, to qualify for the Olympics. I'm not sure people are aware of that, but we've never had a women's team of any kind in the Olympics, in the history of the Olympics, which is an amazing thing. Never mind how they did it. I'm going to talk that with our new guests now. So time moves on in sport. It moves very rapidly and we're straight away into the next big thing. And we're into the rugby season already at club level and at international level. So our guests this morning are three members of the Irish women's rugby team. On my left, starting with Anna Caplice. We're going to discuss her surname in a minute and how difficult it is to get it right. In the middle, Nicole Cronin, and down the end, Hannah O'Connor. Welcome to Off the Bench.
Thanks very much.
We're delighted to have you guys. It's so amazing to have you. And before we go further, we have to talk about the women's hockey team and the play and the penalty shootout.
Absolutely.
Where were you, Hannah?
On Saturday, I actually went to it.
Ooh!
Yeah, I went to it with a
The
couple of
really
the
wet
girls.
night.
Yeah, so we had gone, obviously I think everybody, when the World Cup was on during, was that this summer?
Last summer.
Watched it avidly, thought that we knew all the rules. Then we got there on the Saturday, figured out that we actually didn't really know much about it at all. So one of our friends was actually, she had played a lot of hockey and knew a lot about it, so we were plaguing her every 2 seconds, like, why can they do that? Why, is that wrong? Could you do that?
I know.
But
what's that free for?
Yeah, exactly. So we went on the Saturday, got drenched out of it, but really enjoyed it. The atmosphere was unbelievable. It was brilliant to even be there, and just a massive crowd, absolutely jammed. I think it's been a while since I've seen Energy Park jam that full.
So full in Dannybrook. Nicole, where were you watching it, or did you see it?
I was actually sitting at home in Limerick in my sitting room.
Screaming at the TV
Screaming
like the
at
rest
the
of us.
TV, yeah, absolutely.
Wasn't it nerve-wracking?
Absolutely, yeah. Especially when it went to the penalty shootout. It was.
My brother rang me the next day to say he turned it off at 3-1. He was so upset for them. But thankfully he changed his mind and he turned it back on about 2 minutes later, and he couldn't believe it. Where were you watching it?
I was travelling. I didn't see it. I similar to last year
with the World Cup.
Yeah, and everything was coming in in the morning, because I was actually I was in Japan last year, so was seeing everything in the morning. So similar, I just kind of log on and there's all these unbelievable amazing videos and actually making me tear up. All these things on Twitter, and just such an incredible achievement. So it's amazing.
I was asking, because Nicole is from Limerick, I was asking, did you know, but do you have a connection, a remote connection with Roisin Upton?
Yeah, her brother Sean was in my class.
In UL?
In UL, yeah. We were... Did we do German together? He was in one of my language classes anyway. And
in Ireland there's always 3 degrees of separation. Everybody knows everybody else. There's always a link there.
What language is it today?
Yes, we'll discuss her languages in a minute, because there's a lot of them, obviously. And I didn't know Japanese was one of them until very recently, Nicole.
Should be her most preferred one.
At the bottom of his scrum, I take it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to talk rugby with you because on November the 10th actually is the Autumn International. You play in Wales, and we'll talk about that later on as well. But it's kind of, you're into All-Ireland League, you're playing All-Ireland League, the interprovincials are over, so the season is really kicking in, and we'll talk about that. But the first thing I wanted to ask you was, something interesting has actually happened just this morning, Hannah. You play with Blackrock and you play for Leinster, and Leinster are after announcing something this morning that's a first again.
Yeah, historic event again, a double header announced with Harlequins this December on the 28th, so we'll head over and get to play in Twickenham against the ladies of Harlequins. So
it's a friendly game, but it's being played in Twickenham, which
as a double header with their men's team as well. I have a fixture on the same day, I think, beforehand. Isn't it? Yeah, the men of beforehand.
And for people who don't know, she's looking at Anna because you play for Harlequins in England.
Yeah.
All right, so you're going to be playing against them.
Exactly. Yeah. Hopefully all going well, we'll get a chance. Yeah. Be good fun. But
Harlequins are unusual because they have done promotional stuff that other people haven't done. And I was reading, you have a game called a Game Changers at every year, and this is probably linked in with this.
Yeah. So they choose one game a year to just really ramp up and multiply their promotion and talking about it and getting people along to it. So the Game Changer this year will be around Easter. The one
last year had 4,837. It was a record again for you.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So by promotion you have seen that. If you do the
Yes.
promotion or if you do the double headers, you can attract more people in, which is really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, we've got you here, so we better find out more about you for a start. And we're going to turn to Nicole first.
Oh, wow.
Only because you are the Peter Stringer, I like to think of you, at the Irish team, in that you are small, you are deadly, you are fast, and you annoy the opposition in a great way. And that's always a brilliant thing for
Her
scrum
hair
halves
is
to
better
do.
though.
Yeah,
Can you give me that?
I'd like to claim I have more of it anyway, but
Nicole, how did you get into rugby?
it was actually funny. There's a local rugby pitch about 800 metres from
Which is
my home at home in Limerick,
which is what's the clip pitch?
Richmond.
Right.
And I was probably on my way out to terrorise a couple of neighbours by kicking the ball off their front door and whatnot. But as I walked around the corner, there was an egg-shaped ball being thrown around. So I asked, could I join in? But about 40 minutes into it, I realised it was only all boys.
Yeah.
How did it take you 40 minutes to
John,
realise that?
John, can we see the picture? Have you got the picture there? Can we see this picture? I just think that picture is absolutely gorgeous.
Oh
By
my
coincidence,
God.
you're also wearing the Irish colours.
I was gonna say,
Absolutely.
was that your first Irish cap?
But that is absolutely
I'm pretty
gorgeous
sure I
photo.
was bigger there than I am now.
So, what is that Richmond or who's
That is them, yeah.
That's them. What age were you?
There I'm probably about
22.
strangely enough, I'd say I'm about 11,
Right.
not 10 or 11 there.
An all boys team, obviously.
Yeah.
And did you take to it straight away? Did you love
Yeah,
it?
I absolutely loved it. And because it was all boys and I was a girl, obviously, there was questions asked. But because
there?
we were so young, it was fine. So loved it, loved going down with the boys. In fairness to the boys, they kind of minded me for a finish.
And often, very often happens, I think, if you're the only girl.
Yeah, so I ended up staying with them until it got to the stage where you had to change because of age and everything else that comes with it.
14, 15, I presume. Yeah.
I think I was turning 14
Yeah,
and then I finished up with them. Now I'm still massively involved with that club.
Oh, yeah.
But so it was nice enough.
And then you went to Garryowen?
No, I actually went to Shannon. At the time now I was playing a bit of soccer as well, so I went out to Shannon and played a little bit of underage.
Right.
And they were kind of my club moving forward, but it was
And you did. I figured this about you, even though I haven't seen much about it. You played soccer. You were a good soccer player by the sounds of things.
Yeah, I am. It's funny, like, as much as rugby was a big part of my life, I was probably more into soccer once I had to leave Richmond because of the age.
Yeah.
I kind of just stuck and clung on to soccer a little bit. So I played with Aisling and Agati here, and
how compared? Like, what level were you playing at?
so I played Munster, the Gainer Cup that's run at the moment still. I played in that for a couple of years. I was involved with the underage FEI setup for a couple of years. I got 2 or 3 caps at under 19s.
Right. So you went that far with soccer?
Yeah, it was enjoyable now as well. So there was kind of a break of rugby at that stage.
Yeah.
And then I went to the States for 2 years.
I thought I'd seen a connection. Where in America were you?
If you're a fan of Wizard of Oz now, you'll enjoy this one. I was blowing Kansas.
Were you?
Yeah.
With your little red boots?
I was going to say, I actually got a pair of red boots as a present for the trip.
You fit right in there.
Absolutely.
Little red boots.
Yeah.
You were playing university then? Did you get a scholarship?
I was in Hutchinson Community College at that stage, and I was there for 2 years. I came back and forth over the Christmas and things, and I played a little bit of rugby when I used to come home. Then I was due, after I finished up the second year there, you generally only do 2 years in a junior college. I had signed a 4-year deal to go to Missouri, the University of Missouri, but I came home that summer and it just wasn't for me anymore.
Right, you knew.
When I was signing it, I was all for it and everything, and I came home that summer, and as the weeks were moving on, there was just something in me that didn't want to go back.
Really?
So I ended up taking the plunge and deciding not to go back.
Right.
And I ended up staying at home.
So you stayed home. What age were you?
By the time I came back, I was 22.
22, and you're 27 now.
Yeah.
So that's a big decision to make at that period in your life. And we've had lots of scholarship, in different sports, scholarship students on off the bench, and everybody's different. Some people love home, some people miss that aspect of home.
Yeah.
But was it the college system, or was it the sport, or was it missing home, or what was it for you?
I think there was probably a lot of things in it. I've always been a home bird anyway, but I had kind of got over that aspect because I had been there for a while. But I kind of fell out of love with soccer, to be honest.
Did you?
So because I didn't enjoy soccer, The college part of it just wasn't for me. Like,
Right.
I was only in college to play soccer. It was never something that I was
Like a lot of us, you were going to college for sport.
I was trying to just make ends meet so I could play ball, but I just didn't enjoy it anymore. And it's funnily enough, I've played one game of soccer since I came home from the States.
Wow, that's unbelievable.
Yeah,
You're obviously brilliantly talented at it. There's a rugby in your family a bit, is there?
There's a small bit anyway.
What's your relationship with Sean Cronin, the Irish international?
Sean Cronin's my first cousin.
First cousin.
My dad and his dad are brothers.
Right. Wow. And you are a classic example of all sizes and shapes fitting in rugby. Because we were laughing outside. I'm 5'2.5". Nicole is even tinier than I am. And yet it's amazing how you can be so powerful on a field. You know what I mean? And did he give you advice when you went to rugby, or did you ask him about it?
I think the advice we got was kind of just being battered around the garden. It wasn't kind of like this
Nothing
is what
formal.
Yeah, so it was just kind of we were close enough growing up.
Right.
So we used to always be out with a ball and things, and from a young age now you could see Sean was going to make something of it.
Right.
So then when it kind of started getting a bit better for me going forward, like he'd send you the odd message after a game and say,
Lovely.
look, I think you should do this a bit better, or you might be able to work on this. The
You'd say, I'm a talented back. Please don't even give me a
and the compliments came as well, so it was good, yeah.
Great. And presumably then you went into the Munster system then at some stage.
My story seems to be getting longer. I actually wasn't home from the States too long before I went into the sevens.
Right.
I'd say I was.
You were Sevens Player of the Year in 2014, so
I was.
yeah, there you go. So it didn't take you too long to make to make that up.
So that would have been the year I came home.
Right, straight into it.
Yeah, so I'd say I was in Limerick for maybe 8 weeks by the time I'd made the decision not to go back and ended up in Dublin.
And because the Sevens, if people don't know, the Sevens actually, the team is based in Dublin. People come to Dublin, they work part-time and they train they train together. So there's a collective system there for you to go into. And so that was your route in then through the Sevens.
Yeah, so I was, I must have been 4 years, if not knocking on the door of 5 within the Sevens.
Within the Sevens, yeah. And there were very established halfbacks there as well, so harder to break into the Irish 15s. Yeah.
Absolutely, like you had Larry, Tanya was only after stepping away as well, so there was kind of a bit of, but you had Larry, Mary Healy, so it wasn't going to be a case that you get to walk in and just take it, you know what I mean?
You should break back into it.
Absolutely.
All right, well look, it's interesting because I was always curious where the soccer, I knew there was a soccer connection, but I didn't know where it had taken you or how far you'd gone with it. Obviously she's going to win a kickabout if there's one out of training any day. Limerick, Munster, on this side to me, Limerick, not Limerick but Munster, and of course the whole Munster Cork, Munster Limerick thing I'm sure is always great crack. Anna, first of all, Caplice, am I right?
Yeah.
Caplice. Now I will always see you as not having a cape on. That's how I'm going to remember it.
Yeah.
Because we always arguing over how do you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Where are you from originally?
I'm from Mallow, County Cork.
Right. And how did you get into rugby?
So similar that I would have been playing like in the garden, like with my brother, like two of us just baiting the heads off each other, you know. And I always give him a lot of credit for, I suppose the physical aspect of rugby and how I just it came naturally to me when I picked it up. But I only picked up rugby when I was 17. So there was an announcement on the intercom one day in school, and they said there's going to be rugby tomorrow night down in the town park with Mallow underage girls setting up a team. And I had been obsessed, like I was obsessed with Munster, like from when I was about 11 or 12. Like I used to go with my dad and my brother to the Munster games.
The obsession, John outside will show us just how big this obsession is, maybe as well, because we can see it there. An obsession that goes to even wearing a rugby ball on your head. That's very impressive.
I loved that hat, you know.
The worst part is you could still see her wearing it now.
What? Yeah, I still have that hat. I haven't had that hat for years.
You went to this woman went to a Heineken Cup final just before her leaving cert. Is that right? I'm amazed your parents allowed you to do that. How close to the leaving cert was it? Like same weekend?
That was 2 weeks before my leaving cert. I was having a great time.
You can see.
But there wasn't even a question. I don't think I even needed to ask. I think it was just understood in the house that Munster get to a final.
You're going.
And I will be there.
I was in Wales, I think, wasn't it? That one? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
You must have played other sports though, because an awful lot of you are transfer. You know, you're dual-sided, dual sports. We find this all the time with women's teams in Ireland. So what else did you play before you took up rugby? Then you were 17. You only started.
Yes, yeah. So I would have started with a tennis racket in my hand because my mum is a tennis coach.
Go away.
Yeah. So tennis out in the back garden for years, and golf then as well, because in Mallow the golf and tennis club are together in the same site, so played tennis and golf.
Did you have a golf handicap? Did you play competitively?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I got it down a few shots, but
underage golf girls golf is very competitive in Ireland.
Yeah, it's great. And I was good at it, and kind of the more I trained with rugby, and I maybe only played a handful of times after I picked up rugby, but I could feel my shots getting better because I was getting stronger and things like that. So there's a
strength
so when I retire I'll probably go back to it and try to get a few more shots off my handicap. But
so golf and tennis, two swing sports. Sports.
Yeah, but then of course like Gaelic football and camogie and hurling and football with the boys then as well from a younger age. So with Kilshannig and Dromahane National School, where I went to primary school, and then St Mary's Secondary School, played all those, and we had a great basketball team in our school.
Yeah, I was going to say they were basketball school.
Yes, yeah. So
and then how did you make the jump then from down the park, first night out for the Mallow girls or whatever, and suddenly then how do you get into provincial club and provincial?
Do you know what? It probably sounds like a cliche, but it's definitely true for me. My life actually changed that Friday night at 7:30 when I went down to the park, to Mallowtown Park. I came home like destroyed in mud, beginning a legacy of muddy gear in our house, you know. So I actually was in the shower after that night, like washing off all the mud, and I was singing The Fields of Athenry at the top of my voice. And I know ukulele at that time, but I actually didn't realise I was singing, because I was actually just like
so happy
on cloud nine, like, and I was like, oh my god, that's so embarrassing. And do you know what, my life changed that night because it just took over. And like I did continue with other sports, but my focus was fully on rugby, and like that under 18 team was just an unbelievable team of girls. We were such a strong group, like travelling to matches. My coach Mervyn was just such an inspiration. He had so much faith in us, and at the same time in Munster, I remember I found it on the internet. Like, was the internet even a thing? Yeah, I found it on the internet, and it was updated and everything. There was a Munster Girls website, and it said that there will be a Munster Girls trial in 2 weeks' time, and I think this was the same week that I had started. So actually I went to that Munster Rugby under 18 trial a couple of weeks later.
I love your attitude, that is great.
Yeah, and made Munster under 18 that year, captain Munster under 18 the following year, and then from that went straight into Munster senior women's team. So I was the baby in Munster senior women's team for a long time.
How young were you when you went into the Munster team?
I was I must have been 18,
right, yeah.
Or was I 17? I'm not sure, but 17, 18. And was like getting the results of my leaving cert and stuff. So they said it's Fiona Steed. She announced congratulations to Anna, who got really good result in her leaving cert and will go to UL, and all of the UL both players started cheering. And then
another one.
Fiona Steed was like, hang on a second, she could go to Shannon. And they were all laughing.
Brilliant. Fiona Steed, former Irish international, obviously, and coaching, and Munster women are really interesting as a model. We talk about women and why more women aren't in coaching often and off the bench, and Munster women are really interesting because they have so many women involved in the coaching of the women's teams down there, and an all female panel coaching their senior team this year, which is amazing. So that was your route. Hannah, I suspect your route was very different. It's amazing how different routes you all have.
Yeah, I suppose.
So your family confused me for a start because they started off in Kildare and then they moved to Galway. When you were what age?
I was going into 6th class at the time.
Right, so before you started secondary.
So I held that against them for a long, long time. We had moved from a gorgeous house in the countryside to Banksmack in the middle of Loughrea town, looking out across that Supermax. That was about the highest. That was supposed to be a good selling point. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, so that's where we moved to. So
The dream.
that's when we kind of everything kind of changed. We like obviously growing up in Kildare playing football. I
presume
similar to Nicole. Yeah, playing
yeah.
football. It was Clane was a big football kind of village, and it was playing football with the lads up until a certain age, and then playing with the girls team when they initiated that, and then moving, and then all of a sudden you're in Loughrea, which is camogie obsessed. So gave that a little go for a while. Then wasn't as in love with that, so played golf was actually my main thing as well growing up. So that was what consumed
Golf off. We can have a golf off.
It must be a forward still.
I got not too bad with it. I hadn't got the patience to keep it going. Like I played it for I did. I got down to 6. 6 was my best.
Oh wow, you were serious golfer.
So like I ended at it since I was about, I think when I moved to Galway, like my mum and dad were always into golf, so we'd always kind of gone down and hit a few balls with them when we lived in Kildare even, and then when we moved to Galway I was kind of got my own club.
But if you were playing off 6, were you making Irish schools teams or?
No, I wasn't. I
played
for Connacht. I played underage for Connacht, so I played under 18 for Connacht up until I was kind of 16, 17, 18, that kind of age, and then obviously did the leave insert. It's very time consuming, like Anna will know that as well. It takes up your whole weekend. So when you're obviously going to college then and you're trying to get it, obviously working in the shop as a part-time job, it's hard to keep it going.
Yeah, and a lot of people actually who are good young golfers don't keep it up because when they go to college or start work, because the time is
it is difficult unless you're obviously on a scholarship for golf and it's your main thing. And so, I loved it. It wasn't that I fell out of love with it, it was just the time consuming aspect, and moved back up to college then in Pats in Dublin, Drumcondra, doing teaching, and then got back into a bit of soccer there as well. I played a little bit at home, got back into soccer there, playing a bit, and then had heard that rugby was kind of going on, but never really got into it until played tag when I was about 21. Played a bit of tag rugby with the girls, and then there's the few girls who play in the rugby clubs going around, come and play, try it with us. So then joined CYM over in Terranure and played there for I was about 22 for about 3 or 4 years, and then decided I'd make the jump to Blackrock purely to give it a crack and see how far I could push it, but loved it. I could never look back. That was my only regret, that I joined it so late. Like, I
mean, Blackrock really has a huge history. People might realise it, but like the Rockettes, Blackrock was one of the first strong women's rugby clubs in Ireland, and has a great history. So and appeared to be strong now. There's a gang of you back, obviously, on the Irish panel, and you've just got your first cap.
Well, hopefully that's the plan this week.
You've been picked on the panel for this Autumn International on November the 10th.
Yeah, so that's the hope, the goal. Like I was involved last year with the girls in the squad from kind of end November last year. I'd been getting the squad experience, but this would be my first hopefully cap this weekend. So.
Brilliant. So all of you different routes. It's funny, but the people will wonder now. Okay, so you get into an Irish panel and you're in an Irish squad. Things might be slightly different for Anna, we'll talk about it in a minute. But Nicole, I mean, how do you train with Ireland, and how much time together do you get, and where have you just come from actually? I mean, do you get together on a weekend base regularly, or how does it manage? Because I presume are you working?
Yeah, I'm based out of Limerick full time. So
and you're working down there? Are you?
Yeah, I am. I'm working in the wastewater treatment plant below. So
and you're primary school teacher?
Primary school teaching in Lucan.
Right. Yeah. And you're actually teaching as well in England at the moment, are you?
I'm not actually. I'm Foundation Development Officer for the Harlequins Foundation.
Oh, right.
Which I started just a few months ago.
Linked to the club?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But your background is originally in teaching as well.
Yeah.
So how do you combine work and training for province or for Ireland? How does it work?
I do think that you need a bit of lenience from work as well. It's not really much... It's very time consuming. It's more so the fact that this year has been really good because there has been more camps.
And what are camps? Are they weekends or what?
So they're weekends, and this year for the first year we come in on a Friday evening, which can cause a bit of hassle.
You have to get time off work. Yeah.
With work, my job are exceptionally good at giving me the time. It doesn't seem to be an issue, but it is Friday evenings until Sunday afternoons.
And where are the camps? Are they Dublin, or do they move them around?
No, we are based out of Dublin. We're based out of the High Performance Unit in Abbottstown.
Right, out in Blanchardstown, yeah. So you all have to get there, and would it be like 2 weekends a month, or is it that regular?
It changes in a sense. Like, we do get a plan and a schedule as to what it's going to look like, but you're always looking at 2 or 3 weekends out of a month. But
right.
That's not for 12 months of the year.
Yes, of course, it's your season. It's during your season.
Yeah, so it's kind of chopped and changed a little bit.
And Hannah, would you have started for this season? Then would you start in August, or when's pre-season?
Yeah, like we would have had.
See,
pre-season, I suppose it's different for club and interprovincial, because during the summer you're flat out with interprovincial stuff, and everybody is tipping away at that, and you kind of take a break after the AIL season and the club season finishes. Then you get into interprovincial and you're training all summer with that group. Then you finish that and you kind of have a little kind of couple of weeks of a lull, and then they kind of overlap at the end with club and interprovincial a little bit. Then you're straight back into club, and then Ireland kind of kicks off again. But we have had camps, national camps throughout the summer as well, kind of meeting up with each other. Yeah, so we would have had a good few camps during the summer as well. And as Nicole said there, it's great to have the Friday. It kind of feels like you've extra time. I think the Friday, they have the pros and the cons to them, but it's nice to kind of get in on the Friday. You feel like you get an extra little bit of time with each other.
You get in on Friday afternoon or Friday
evening?
Friday evening, exactly. So a lot of the arguments in recent years were they weren't getting you together enough, you weren't getting enough time together. That has clearly improved, and you feel that there's more time.
I think so anyway.
Getting together. Now you're based in England, which is interesting, because we hear so much about the professionalisation of the game in England and people getting paid and all the rest. Are you rolling in it, and have you a full-time professional contract over there?
I need to update the parking ticket on my Mercedes.
Actually, want to change your Casio?
Well, when I didn't get a message from an agent, I figured we were okay to get you in.
No, you're definitely okay.
What's the story in England with people at club level? Are some people being paid in England and some not?
Yeah, it seems so. I don't know fully. I don't know if anyone knows fully who is, who isn't. It's all at the discretion of the clubs.
Right.
But there are some clubs that have decided to pay their players.
Right.
Whether it's a match fee or a retainer fee. Obviously, that's different from the English girls who are being looked after by the RFU. And
so we know in 2 years ago they started to give the international senior players in England contracts.
Exactly. And then to link up with that, the clubs are responsible for delivering programs to those girls. So for example, the Harlequins girls have sessions that are delivered by Harlequins because Harlequins are part of Tyrrell's Premiership. So for me, I train in the afternoons because I can avail of those sessions as well, the ones that are on the afternoons from that Harlequins put on.
Right.
I go to gym and skill sessions in the afternoons, not every afternoon, but it does mean that I have to come out of work early, not just on a day for travel to camp, but for training on a Monday afternoon, for example.
Right.
But I applied for my job, which actually it's the same, it's under the same banner of Harlequins, but the foundation is the charity.
It's a work.
And I applied for that job and did the interview, and they didn't give it to me because I'm a women's player. I applied for it, and but I said to them, and they were very understanding because they wanted my experience as a coach and as a player, and all the other things that I bring. They wanted to make it work, so they said we can make a timetable
to work around you.
Yeah, so that's my decision to work kind of less than full time.
Then what you're saying is Quins actually have training sessions during the day, which in an Irish club for Blackrock or for UL Bows, you don't have anything like that. All your club training is all at night.
Our club training is in the evenings
and after work.
Our gym sessions that'd be delivered by the RFU or in the morning, so you get them done before you go to work.
Yeah. Did I hear you say in the interview saying that you were in the gym at 20 to 6 in the morning?
You
hardly going to bed at that hour, for God's sake.
Wow.
20 to 6.
You will be. Yeah, I'm living out in Clane, so to get up
and to come into town. Where do you use?
We'd be out. Well, when we're out in Abbottstown, that's where we'd have to go. It would be earlier for Abbottstown if it's 20 to 6. If I'm popping to it, say out of national gym hours. If you're doing it myself, it'll be 20 to 6 to make sure you can do it before you get into work. If it's gym with the girls in the Ireland setup,
and as you're based, any of the people who are based in Limerick will say, for example, can you do your gym sessions in a centralised place in Limerick?
We're based out of the Munster High Performance Unit
in UL.
In UL, so it's
so that's all in place for you then.
Yeah.
Okay. And at the moment, this winter has been unusual. We were hoping that they'd give you 2 autumn internationals because everyone says you need games. They've only given you 1, but they've done something slightly different, Hannah, this year. So where have you just kind of come from in terms of camps?
Yeah, the girls, we've had the last 2 weeks have been fairly full on for the squad in the sense that we've been over in France just this week on for a 5-day training camp with the
5
French.
days?
Yeah, which was invaluable, I think, to the squad.
I don't think that's ever happened before. I think that's the first.
So,
that's the first to my knowledge anyway.
And then the week previously then with Scotland for the same thing, which is slightly shorter span, but again a kind of a training camp and game situation against them, so where they're not classified as test games, you're not going over there.
And you're over training in their facilities, presumably not looking over the wall to see what they're doing, but do you come together for games, or did you have anything else? What was the interaction?
You were in France, which was a bit more joined as opposed to Scotland was. But
we had, so the Scotland one, it happened, we had the same thing last year actually, where Scotland came to us. But with France this year, we went and we stayed in their, I suppose, their equivalent to
of their high performance centre in Marcoussis.
That's right. And we did a lot of our own sessions, because obviously we were learning our plays and our moves and everything for this year. And then we did a technical session with their forwards coach and the French forwards, so we were scrumming against each other.
Brilliant.
And it was really nice actually.
The Giants, mother of God.
Yeah. They're not that big up close.
Not that big when you take them down.
No, absolutely not. So that was really nice, just to see how they tick and how they work, and you know, they're
you're sharing technical expertise, which is brilliant.
Yeah. That was
and games
really
and games against them as well.
And just to see how they train. You know, they do. We got our schedule. It was like 7:30 forwards meeting at wherever for a scrum session, breakfast 8:30. So we're like, well, we're doing scrums before breakfast. Right, okay, let's go with it. And you know, that's what the French girls do, not every day, but when they have their full-on days, they will do scrums before breakfast, where the backs are just sleeping in. And
we have to do the hard yards on the day, so we need to be rested.
So you need the extra.
We need to rest down the girls.
Beauty sleep.
I'm sure.
So interesting. And I think is it true that the French, some of them might be on contracts as well?
Yeah.
So they have a high performance system there, and they're
Yes.
in, and they're on contracts.
Yeah, I probably I don't understand it fully, but I know that they're getting money to play rugby.
Yeah, it's supporting them. Yeah. Interesting, because as I said, we look at it, and we were even talking this week, like, how do you fund women's sport? How do you fund women's team sport? If you don't get the same amount of crowds in, you're not getting people through the gates, how do you fund it? But this week is a very interesting week, because the Australian soccer team, women's soccer team, the Matildas as they're called, they are after signing contracts they're after getting the same contract agreement as their men, and people say it's quite historic. It's happening some different places over the world, but can you ever imagine a day, Nicole, when you get paid to play rugby and get exactly the same, you know, experiences as the men?
I think it's something we could hope for and wish for. I think things are being put into place to make things better anyway, and make it more feasible to be getting a return when you're at the loss of maybe a day's work. So I do think for maybe a couple of generations coming up, things will set down. Now, I'm not too sure if it'll ever be even keels. Yeah. But I think it's definitely making progress in the sense of
they're getting in the right direction.
In general, I think a couple of generations after us might benefit a bit more from it.
Yeah, there was a big 2020 discussion yesterday, and that was one of the questions was, could you ever see a situation? And people were saying, well, it might not exactly ever be the same, but there's a whole load of progress that could be made.
Yeah. I think the foundation has been set. It's just about keep building on it. Yeah. But we'll just have to keep moving forward with that.
Yeah. Next year, interesting, Six Nations. Obviously, playing Wales in November the 10th. It's only a couple of days away, and in Autumn International. First game next season is home game, Six Nations, Scotland. Coached, by the way, by Philip Doyle, the ex-Irish manager, Goose as we know him, which is going to be a really interesting start at the season. And then you have, is it the home? Are you away to England and France in Six Nations? Yeah. Always difficult to travel there. Yeah. Also, World Cup qualification. Am I right, Fee? In this coming year, and when does that happen, or do you know when that happens?
September of next year.
September next year. Yeah. So it's 2020 then is a big year for you.
Yeah. Massive year. Yeah.
Massive year for you. And it was a difficult year last year, I would say. I looked at even the squad that's just been picked for this, and I counted of the squad that's just been picked for this Autumn International, only 11 of that team were in the squad in 2018. There's been a massive turnover, and you've lost some iconic players even in the past summer.
Yeah.
Ali Miller has retired.
Yeah, that's right. I think obviously after any World Cup there's going to be kind of an exodus of older players, and then if, you know, there are players, for example Ali, who just wanted to a few more years, you know, and felt she had a few more years in her, but maybe not to go to quite as far as the World Cup, you know.
Yeah.
So
You're still playing club, still playing provincial.
yeah, absolutely. Just stepped away from the
And when
game,
you have a hard year like you had last year, like I think there was some really poor results. The Six Nations lost to Italy, which hadn't happened before. Like, how do you get your heads around that, and how do you stay motivated?
It was tough, but you know, we want the same as what other female athletes in the country want. You know, you want recognition, you want, but you have to get good results. So that's what's inspiring us. Actually, the hockey girls came in and spoke to us last year about.
Did they?
They did, yeah.
When? Before the Six Nations?
Before one of the games, they presented the jerseys for one of the
presented our
games.
jerseys before France, I think, to the girls. It was just really nice because we're, you know, even though they've got a stick in their hand, you know, we're actually all on the same page, like, and
they had serious struggles at times as well.
That's right. So I can't remember who exactly it was that said it, but she said, you know, you don't know how close you are to actually
making that breakthrough.
Exactly. She said it could be tomorrow, so you don't know. So, and that really stuck with me. But I think we all understand that anyway. Like, we're not just here just to, you know, just to fill a jersey and just to get the free year. We actually really want to achieve something. So that I think from that respect, it's easy.
That's what drives you on.
To stay motivated. Yeah.
And Hannah, I mean, an interesting point really. We even look at your age profile. Nicole is 27, only started. You're 30. You're 29.
Yeah.
So we're still in that generation where you weren't rugby players from kids.
Yeah.
A lot of you adapted and became rugby players, whereas the generation that are going to come behind you, they are going to be first. Rugby is going to be first and centre for them, and that is going to affect their skill level from a very early age, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's only going to benefit the future of the grassroots, getting it down at that level and bringing it up through it. I suppose, as Anna said, like, we're not here just to fill a jersey. Like, I suppose when you're getting the opportunity to represent your country, it's the highest of accolades that you want, and you want to leave the jersey in a better place every time you get the opportunity to wear it, whether that be in training or whether that be on a test match pitch. But yeah, they're going to definitely be the under 18s in the process that are coming up. I think they're going to definitely be putting the game in a better place. And
well, you look at somebody like Bavian Parsons, who came made her debut last year. Was she 17? She's doing her leaving.
I think she was 16 when she actually got capped.
Unbelievable. She's doing her leaving this year, and she's playing our senior. That is incredible. But that's what's going to affect the skill level, I think, and also that permeates through a squad as well. When somebody comes in with such brilliant skills, I think it affects everybody else as well. You nearly start working harder. Do you know what I mean? In your head, you're thinking, where are they coming from? So that's a huge part of it for you going forward, isn't it, Nicole? Yeah.
I think like that, you need them coming up younger as opposed to starting so late. And I think, like I said earlier, I think foundations are in place, and I think there's a bigger emphasis on underage teams in clubs that would have been primarily boys teams.
Yeah.
So I do think they are putting the emphasis on to get them started younger. So I think going forward it'll be...
And do you see that at club level, even in Limerick, whether it's Richmond or Garryowen? We have a lovely photo of you here with a young player, and I was just curious as to where that happened or how, but that's a really cute photo. What age is she?
As I got told very quickly afterwards, do not bend down to kids that are not that small. That's actually below in Richmond.
That's in your own club.
So they would have been primarily a boys team, and then they kind of got started with a senior team, a kind of a development team. It was for people that wouldn't have had a great skill set to go down, and I think it was more so to make friends and get active.
Yeah.
But it actually took off really well, and then they decided to get younger girls involved, so they're actually called the Richmond Rabbits, as far as I'm aware.
It. That's a gorgeous name.
Yeah,
Richmond Rabbits.
so they've started to put really good emphasis on getting young girls down playing, and if they can't get them a game, they'll mix them in amongst the boys, and they'll have a game below training. And
right. And I talked to Ciara Griffin this summer, and she was saying, I don't know, they had camps down in her club in Kerry, and they were putting hundreds of young girls through the clubs. They had camps. Like, she couldn't believe the numbers. Absolutely couldn't believe the numbers.
I think that give it a try is massive.
Give it a try is a huge thing, and that's a programme that the RFU have. Really,
there's a brilliant drive behind that. I know I was involved in it over in Blackrock, and you had girls coming that didn't necessarily have a brother or anything that played, that it was purely coming from word of mouth. So that was nice as well, to literally expose them to it, to see them in 8 weeks go from nothing just to catching a ball to actually tackling each other by week 8. And it's obviously the nervous part, you're like, oh, will they want to actually do this, or will it turn them off? But they love it.
And that physicality is what people love about rugby, men or women. It's that it's what makes it stand out as a sport is that physicality, isn't it? I mean, you obviously loved it that first night. You're covered in mud. You're in singing in the shower, but you actually got such adrenaline kick out of knocking people over.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's, I suppose, a big challenge. When with girls in particular, I suppose, and their parents, with boys as well, and their parents are kind of worried that they might get injuries or whatever. But you recover from an injury, and it teaches you resilience, and it teaches you how you need to adapt. Like if you're right-handed, and you need to use your left hand for things, you have to learn how to adapt to these situations.
To learn how to tackle. We always say that they teach you how to tackle.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't get hurt.
I actually was coaching just yesterday, and a bunch of year 11 girls, and they were saying, we can't come to training tomorrow because we've got revision or whatever. And I was just telling them of some of my stories, and you need to stay active, and you need to you can't give up sports when you're studying for your exams. You need to be outside and all the rest. And I told them then that I actually broke my hand before my leaving cert, oral. So actually, it was great. Like I went in with the cast and like, Cod a Harla. And I was like, well,
wait, I tell you,
good jobbing. So, and I'm not recommending that anyone go and break their hand before they're orals, but
you can guide it here.
But it gives you stories and it teaches you things, and like injuries are not the biggest thing. What you gain from a team sport, especially a team sport like rugby, outweighs that phenomenally.
And it's a recurring theme with this. It's the kinship, it's the sisterhood, it's the fun part of team sport as well that often gets you through the really hard times as well. Yep. You have a very interesting background, and not just because you played the ukulele, which I heard, and dance a lot. Is she the only ukulele? Nicole, does anybody else play?
No, I'm pretty sure.
She's the only ukulele player on the Irish squad.
No, Derv has one as well. So, but Anna's had this thing.
Oh, she has one as well. You have two of them.
Yeah. I think you've had this thing. It's like a puppy that she's had with her. It's all it's short is a leash. It comes absolutely everywhere with her ukulele. So there comes a time you're looking in the corner and you're like, that thing again.
Yeah, well, see, we shared the same apartment at the World Cup, and I was like playing the ukulele constantly, and the bag was just thrown around. So whenever she sees the bag, she thinks it's the World Cup.
It was just like every time I turned around, the ukulele was there. I was like,
I wanted to bring it to camp this weekend, but
You've been banned, tell the truth.
No, I forgot I left in the car. I was on the bus and I was like, I'm actually
you subconsciously knew that you didn't want to annoy me all weekend.
But I did. maybe. But I actually got my first ukulele from Nora Stapleton.
Did you?
Yeah, I was talking.
Nora Stapleton is a secret ukulele player.
No.
We didn't know this.
I said I was just
revealed.
Well, I was just chatting to her. I was during or before the World Cup, and I was like, I just want to learn a new skill. Maybe learn the ukulele. She was like, Anna, I have one sitting at home. I can't play it, so you can have it. I was like, are you sure? She was like, yeah. So actually, I'll give Nora Stapleton.
So Nora Stapleton is to blame for the ukulele playing.
Yeah, you can blame.
Sorry,
it's fine. She's getting a text message.
One of the things that's interesting about you, because I watched you were in Irish squads for a year, and then really I would say only last year you kind of broke into the team. And we should say your back row, she's a scrum half. Sometimes you can be too versatile, or it's hard to break into a team when there are strong people there. But you've travelled a lot. You've had you're 30, you've had a very interesting life. And explain to us why you walked away from rugby after the 2017 World Cup, when Ireland had a tough time. A lot was expected. Home squad, everyone was like, oh great, and the team, the generation before you were so successful. You walked away from rugby briefly. Just tell us why, and how did you end up in Japan?
Yeah, so I studied languages because I wanted to be a teacher, and I wanted to teach languages. Everyone always asks me, why didn't you teach PE? And it's like, well, you can have other loves in life as well. So I studied German, Spanish and Japanese, and I at the University of Limerick, and I had 2 placements. I lived in Argentina for my Spanish, and I lived in Vienna for my German, and I had no placement remaining for my Japanese. So I decided to drop Japanese while I was in UL, and with the intention of going to Japan someday, to learn it properly and just to immerse myself in the language and learn it that way. So after the World Cup, I just wanted to kind of it was obviously a really tough year.
There was a lot of fallout. There was a lot of people giving out about the Irish, a few giving out about the team. It was a tough time.
It was a tough time, and I think that because I had done those placements when I was younger, I put myself out of Munster and out of UL Bows for about a year and a half, and I'm I'm happy, very happy that I did that and had that time travelling. But it just means that it kind of set back maybe what the age at which I kind of thought that I might get my first cap, but that was fine. I was kind of happy with that. So I didn't get my caps till later on, but after the World Cup I just wanted a bit of a suss, and I wanted to take myself out of the bubble. So I travelled to Japan.
As you do.
Yeah. I just booked a flight. You know what? One day I just was like, okay, I just really want to just book this flight so that I know how I feel about it. So when I went to Japan, my thoughts were, I'll either put myself out of the bubble and be happy, or, which is what happened, put myself out of the bubble and realise that is definitely where I want to be, and that is what happened. And I was lucky to meet a really wise Kiwi coach, like really old school S&C, that was coaching at a team in Tokyo. And he asked me, he was like, but you play for Ireland, like what are you doing here in Japan? And I explained everything to him, and he spoke to me about it, and he said, like your window of opportunity to play sport is very small. Your window of opportunity to play international sport is extremely small. So while you have the opportunity to do that, and he was right, and I knew it, and it was really nice to speak to this complete stranger on the other side of the world, to just kind of fully come around to it. So I rang Adam Griggs, and I said, I've made the wrong decision here. I'm happy to,
I'm back.
And I'm happy to admit that, and I want to come back and play. So just so you know, they'll be coming back to play, and if you're happy with how I'm playing. So I decided to come back to join Richmond last year, who I'd been playing with previously in London.
Yeah, London.
So got back into the squad after just a brief time away. It was only 6 weeks in the end, but just taking myself out of it for a little while was my own way of dealing with it.
So if you hadn't met that guy and you hadn't had that chat with you might not have come back, which is interesting.
Maybe,
have you ever had periods where you've are you coming to it so much later that it's even keeps you enthusiastic all the time?
Yeah, I think that's probably why it's coming to it later. I'm like, damn, I should have come at it sooner. Yeah, that's my only regret, is like you hear people, or you see even like the younger girls in the squad, like Baven and like Judy Bobbitt as well, is only like 19 now, come into, like, God, you're so young.
Yeah, she's in your cap as well.
So that's the thing. And no, I think guys definitely, like Anna said, that window to play it is very small, and you're very conscious of that, especially the international window. So the fact that I changed clubs was for the reason to try and push for international level, whether it happened or not, to see how far you could push it, just take a risk and go with it. And I kind of have committed to it fully since then. And no, there's never been a time really where I wanted to step away from it. You kind of get so obsessed with the goal at the end of it.
And Nicole, you had injury. Have you had injuries? Because you were absolutely flying, and you really got yourself into first choice. And then what would you have? Was it ankle injury? What did you have?
I've been on the injury list now a couple of times, far more times than I would have ever liked to have been. I went through about a year and just over a year of really struggling with injuries. Last year it was an ankle issue. It was just reoccurring all the time, and I was just trying to get from A to B. That happened just after the autumn internationals last year. I was just trying to get from A to B, and I was trying to be in training, then I was trying to do too much
a lot of people
to make up for not being able to do it.
Where are you now?
I'm fully healthy for the first time in a very long time. I've started the season pretty well. I got through the Interpros bit of club season. I'm back in here since the start of the season, so
touch wood.
I'm in a good space
it's
at the moment.
It's a really frustrating time. Leah Lyons at the moment Leah's out with, she's had shoulder surgery, hasn't she? So it's such a key part of the team now as well. But like, it's part of everybody's career. Injuries happen, you just have to manage them, and that's the big challenge. Before we finish up, a couple of things we have to ask you, very important. Do you have a nickname? Hannah O'Connor?
No, I get a variation of my name, Hans. So nothing really very
I cannot
good
believe
sticking.
it's not a fruit or vegetable. This one is spud, and this one is banana cookies. On social media. So I automatically imagine I might have possibly a variation of
it was cucumber.
I got goblin for a while off a girl who used to play golf with.
Goblin.
Yeah, I got goblin because of my laugh.
Why are you? Why are you spud? Is that go back
she
a
looks
long
like
way?
one.
I did, not anymore. When I was in the States, for some reason or other, the Americans just classed the Irish with potatoes.
Of course.
So
I was wondering where spud
for
came
some
from.
reason or other, and it stuck, and it came home with me.
And are you only banana just in your social media?
Well, no, people in rugby call me Banana, just Anna Banana, but which people in England don't really understand because Anna doesn't rhyme with banana in an English language.
In an English accent.
In an English accent, sorry. So
English language.
But loads of people call me banana in rugby.
There's the connection.
Yeah.
But before we let you go as well, any tattoos amongst you? Because you can't be an international athlete anymore if you don't have a tattoo.
Zero.
Zero
My mum
tattoo?
would be delighted.
Zero tattoo. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
How many?
I have 2.
You have one very unusual one.
This one?
Yes,
Yeah.
and who's going to have a tattoo of an Austrian tram? That is very random, I have to say.
Yeah.
Was that because you lived in Vienna?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
So
and
it's the Vienna tram.
It's the tram from Vienna, and actually, strangely, I drew it, and then I went to the tattoo parlour of a guy that I was in primary school with. So he straightened up the lines and he tattooed it on for me. But if you've ever been to Vienna, it's beautiful. You should go.
And what's the other tattoo?
It's there. It's actually I feel embarrassed explaining what it is because I'm not Maori.
So it's a
It's a
Maori
Maori tattoo. Yeah. What were you thinking it was going to be?
I'm saying something else.
Oh God, no! But it's a rugby one.
It's a rugby one. It's a Maori one. All right. I'm amazed that you don't have more tattoos because you can't be an international rugby player now. The ink is everywhere. The men's teams are just ridiculous. The World Cup was ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
They're covered in them.
Yeah.
Listen, guys, it's great to have you in. You're here because Ireland are playing Wales in their November Autumn International UCD Bowl, 1:00 on November the 10th, which is Sunday, a few days away. But the one thing we always say on Off the Bench is the All-Ireland leagues in all sports still continue, and it's really important that we get people out. That's where you build an audience, that's where sponsors and people get interested, that's how women's teams are funded. So the All-Ireland League has started. You're on an international break. It will go back. I think the next round of games is...
They're on this Saturday.
There's games on Saturday, and then there's a break I think to November the 23rd, and it goes the whole way through actually until next April. So between the internationals there are still league games on. 2 new teams into the AL this year, Sutonians and Malone from the north. So the game is growing at that level as well, and that's really important to support that. So we always say that on Off the Bench, we really have to get out on the sidelines and support people. And we saw it with the hockey last weekend.
Absolutely.
How brilliant, what an effect that has on the game, not just on you as players, but on everything else. Mm-hmm. And the one other thing we'll mention before we finish up today as well is that Ireland women's soccer team, you'll be interested in this one, they're also playing next week, and it's a really, really important game. They're unbeaten and third game in the Euro qualifiers.
Yeah,
if
they could scalp a point out of this now, they'll be really set up.
Yeah, it would be brilliant. It's an away game, but I'll let you know. We'll let you know through Twitter whether what the live feeds are on it. Would you know any of that team?
Yeah, I know a couple of them. I'd know. I would have been when I was in there at under 17s. I didn't get capped, but I was in there for a year or so trying to get involved, and I would have played with Megan Campbell.
Oh really?
Yeah, I would have been around her quite a bit, and a small bit through the club system with Denise O'Sullivan and bits and pieces.
What a player. Denise O'Sullivan has just been made player of the season, at the MVP of the season, I think, again with her club in America. She's just an incredible player. So that's on. New manager obviously Vera Powell, and it's really interesting to see how they're going, and we were at the cup final at the weekend. Brilliant game. Congratulations to Wexford Youths for beating Pease. Super FAI Cup final. Really great game last weekend. So again, we always say let's get out there, let's support them, because that's what helps these people to get up at 6:15 in the morning, whatever it is, and do the training. Great to have you in, guys. Best of luck with the season. We'll be looking forward to the Six Nations, and the first game is against Scotland. I think it's February the 2nd next season, but it's a huge year for you, and we'll be behind you the whole way. So thanks a million for coming in.
Thank
you.
Thanks to Banana, thanks to Spud, and thanks to
Cucumber,
exactly. Give her a name. Until the next time, folks, thanks for listening and enjoy your sport.